Hey Carl.
I guess we're...
Oh,
Hello.
have you notified time being? Is time being here? Hello guys.
But yeah.
Yeah, he said that to be notified. Uh, can you send him a
I'll let him
message?
know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Oh, it's a spider. Hello, spider. Hold on. Give me a sec. I can one up you here. Go ahead, little spider. Hello. I'm gonna change.
Hello?
Hello there.
Yeah, please do. I don't like spiders.
Hey, you shouldn't discriminate. We're all life forms.
Yeah, I know. They creep me out still.
Yeah, well,
Especially the big ones.
well,
Like
I'm
that
I'm
bus,
quite I'm
but as
quite a
big as me.
I'm quite a small person in real life, and big people creep me out all the time when I walk outside.
Okay, guys, that's all right for today's aspiration.
Okay.
Victorious Buddhas, compassionate ones, throughout the infinite worlds of the 10 directions, grant your blessings so that the inner and outer work that I accomplished today bears the fruits that multiply beyond imagining and extend to the very limits of this existence to benefit myself, the ones I love, and the countless other beings of the 6 realms.
Yeah. All right, we may now sit. And welcome, everyone. Seems like we have a bigger group today, which is always fun. Creates a little bit more interactivity. Um, I see also a few new faces. So the way that this works, guys, is that we do a little meditation session to get in the mood, and then we do a reading and commentary together, question and answers. And then, based on what we have learned, we do another bit of meditation to kind of incorporate the teaching. And I guess that's about it. If it's your first time in a virtual Buddhist temple, don't be spooked by the exoticism. It's not about there are no beliefs actually in Buddhism. There are no gods either. It's just really an ancient science of the mind and of emotions that we're studying together so that we handle ourselves better in our daily. So that being said, we're going to do a little bit of shamatha. So in shamatha, we follow our breath with the mind and make sure that when the mind wanders off our breath, we bring it back to it. We're going to do a relaxation routine together, do the 7 points of the meditation. Have a good session, everyone. So let's start by taking 3 long, deep breaths. It's gonna take. Exhale, you can get rid of all the stress of the day, all the put some distance between you and us. Embrace some quiet time. So let us relax our body quickly. Sure your back is straight, sitting comfortably, breathe any tension. little trick that I use where I balance myself back and forth a little bit and let myself fall to the center. And then I do it left and right. So spine kind of naturally locates itself. Make sure your neck is also straight up on your back. Put your head there then comfortably. And then as you have taken that posture, let us start bringing our attention to the tip of our head. Let's just relax the muscles of our head there. The area around our eyebrows, eye sockets and eyelids. Let our eyelids fall about 3/4 of the way. You don't have to close your eyes. If it helps you to disconnect a little bit, you can do it though. So please there, otherwise you would look about at a 45 degrees angle towards the ground. Make sure the area around your ears are relaxed. Cheeks. Let the jaw hang comfortably. Don't clench your teeth. Don't know what to do with your tongue, you can just place it against the top of the palate. Let the air go lips. Relax the entire. Then let's move our attention to our neck, to the back of our head and down the neck. Here we find any tension we are able to release. Let's move down the shoulder. Relax our shoulder. Our arms should fall comfortably, naturally into our lap in such a way that it doesn't create a firm chest. Your chest should remain kind of soft and open. You can hold your hands together or you can guys. Then you start relaxing your upper back. Lower. Legs should be positioned just to provide a good platform for them. Here they're squeezed, hurting. You're on chair at a time. And then relax all of your limbs. Feel the relaxation going down in your arms, down to the tip of your fingers. Same thing, leg. Up. Take another deep. Now your body starts feeling heavy and warmer. You may feel as if you were under a warm shower, cold. Feel the water enveloping your entire being covered. As you feel that warmth, it's relieved all. Completely covered. Couple deep. Notice where air is entering your body. It could be around the nostril or back of your throat, or it could be lungs. You feel the colder air entering. Pick a point where you feel it distinctly, and follow that point with the mind as you inhale. Say, what's going on at that point. That's the entire practice. Let us follow the breath in and out while deep station takes. The mind starts wandering. You start thinking, label thinking, open your breath. You have feeling, itch, don't need it. Open. As you open, as your eye be dissolved, as your body melt and become more. All there is, all that. Just breathe, feel. Important part of your meditation is the moment where you notice your mind under the act of bringing it back, not become desperate if you didn't have trouble concentrating. The fact that you're noticing is a sign that your meditation works. All right, that's it for our first little session. How's everyone now? A little bit more relaxed? Okay, so today's topic is we're still in the way of practice. So get very practical. Little license from the teaching. Today's theme is about the way of behavior. And so, was someone prepared to read today? Mar, did you prepare this time? No?
No.
All right, so then Julia, would you come help us with today's reading?
The good way of behavior?
Yep, that's it.
Those who seek the way of enlightenment must always bear in mind the necessity of constantly keeping their body, speech, and mind pure. To keep the body pure, one must not kill any living creature. One must not steal or commit adultery. To keep speech pure, one must not lie or abuse or deceive or indulge in idle talk. To keep the mind pure, one must remove all greed, anger, and false judgment. If the mind becomes impure, for sure, one's deeds will be impure. If the deeds are impure, there will be suffering. So, it is of the greatest importance that the mind and the body be kept pure. Once there was a rich widow who had a reputation for kindness, modesty, and courtesy. She had a housemaid who was wise and diligent. One day, the maid thought, "My mistress has a very good reputation. I wonder whether she is good by nature or is good because of her surroundings. I will try her and find out." The following morning, the maid did not appear before her mistress until nearly noon. The mistress was vexed and scolded her impatiently. The maid replied, "If I am lazy for only a day or two, you ought not to become impatient." Then the mistress became angry. The next day, the maid got up late again. This made the mistress very angry, and she struck the maid with a stick. This incident became widely known, and the rich widow lost her good reputation. Many people are like this woman. While their surroundings are satisfactory, they are kind, modest, and quiet. But it is questionable if they will behave likewise when the conditions change and become unsatisfactory. It is only when a person maintains a pure and peaceful mind and continues to act with goodness when unpleasant words enter his ears, when others show ill will towards him, or when he lacks sufficient food, clothes, and shelter, that we may call him good. Therefore, those who do good deeds and maintain a peaceful mind only when their surroundings are satisfactory are not really good people. Only those who have received the Buddha's teachings and are training their minds and bodies by those teachings can be called truly good, modest, and peaceful people. As to the suitability of words to be used, there are 5 pairs of antonyms: words that are suitable to their occasion and those not so suitable to theirs, words that fit the facts and those that don't fit, words that sound pleasant and those that sound rude, words that are beneficial and those that are harmful, and words that are sympathetic and those that are hateful. Whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them for good or ill. If our minds are filled with sympathy and compassion, they will be resistant to the evil words we hear. We must not let wild words pass our lips, lest they arouse feelings of anger and hatred. The words we speak should always be words of sympathy and wisdom. Suppose there is a man who wants to remove all the dirt from the ground. He uses a spade and a winnow and works perseveringly, scattering the dirt all about. But it is an impossible task. Like this foolish man, we cannot hope to eliminate all words. We must train our mind and fill our hearts with sympathy so that we will be undisturbed by the words spoken by others. One might try to paint a picture with watercolors on the blue sky, but it is impossible. And it is also impossible to dry up a great river by the heat of a torch made of hay, or to produce a crackling noise by rubbing together 2 pieces of well-tanned leather. Like these examples, people should train their minds so that they would not be disturbed by whatever kinds of words they might hear. They should train their minds and keep them broad as the earth, unlimited as the sky, deep as a big river, and soft as a well-tanned leather. Even if your enemy catches and tortures you, if you feel resentment, you are not following the Buddha's teachings. Under every circumstance, you should learn to think, "My mind is unshakable. Words of hatred and anger shall not pass my lips. I will surround my enemy with thoughts of sympathy and pity that flow out from a mind filled with compassion for all sentient life." There was a fable told of a man who fought an anthill, which burned up in the daytime and smoked at night. He went to a wise man and asked his advice as to what he should do about it. The wise man told him to dig into it with a sword. This the man did. He found in succession a gate bar, some bubbles of water, a pitchfork, a box, a tortoise, a butcher knife, a piece of meat, and finally a dragon, which came out. The man reported to the wise man that what he had found. The wise man explained the significance of it and said, "Throw away everything but the dragon. Leave the dragon alone and do not disturb him." This is a fable in which ant hill represents the human body. Burned in the daytime represents the fact that during the day people turn into acts the things they thought about the previous night. Smoked at night indicates the fact that people during the night recall with pleasure or regret the things that they did the previous day. In the same fable, a man means a person who seeks enlightenment. A wise man means Buddha. A sword means pure wisdom. Dig into it refers to the effort he must make to reach or to gain enlightenment. Further in the fable, gate bar represents ignorance. Bubbles are puffs of suffering and anger. Pitchfork suggests hesitation and uneasiness. Box suggests the storage of greed, anger, laziness, fickleness, repentance, and delusion. Tortoise means the body and the mind. Butcher knife means the synthesis of the 5 sensory desires. And a piece of meat means the resulting desire that causes a man to covet after satisfaction. These things are all harmful to man, and so Buddha said, "Throw away everything." Still further, dragon indicates a mind that has eliminated all worldly passions. If a man digs into the things about him with the sword of wisdom, he will finally come to his dragon. Leave the dragon alone and do not disturb him means to go after and dig up a mind free of worldly desires. Pindola, a disciple of Buddha, after gaining enlightenment, returned to his native place of Kausambi to repay the people there for the kindness they had shown him. In so doing, he prepared the field for the sowing of Buddha's seeds. On the outskirts of Kausambi, there is a small park that runs along the bank of the Ganges River, shaded by endless rows of coconut trees, and where a cool wind continually blows. One hot summer day, Pindola sat in meditation in the cool shade of a tree when King Udayana came to this park with his consorts for recreation, and after music and pleasure, he took a nap in the shade of another tree. While their king was asleep, his wives and ladies in waiting took a walk and suddenly came upon Pindola sitting in meditation. They recognized him as a holy man and asked him to teach them, and they listened to his sermon. When the king awoke from his nap, he went in search of his ladies, and found them surrounding this man and listening to his teachings. Being of a jealous and lascivious mind, the king became angry and abused Pindola, saying, "It is inexcusable that you, a holy man, should be in the midst of women and enjoy idle talking with them." Pindola quietly closed his eyes and remained silent. The angry king drew his sword and threatened Pindola, but the holy man remained silent and was as firm as a rock. This made the king still more angry, so he broke open an anthill and threw some of the ant-filled dirt upon him. But Pindola remained sitting in meditation, quietly enduring the insult and pain. Thereupon, the king became ashamed of his ferocious conduct and begged Pindola's pardon. As a result of this incident, the Buddha's teaching found its way into the king's castle, and from there it spread all over the country. A few days later, King Udayana visited Pindola in the forest retreat where he lived, and asked him, "Honored teacher, how is it that the disciples of Buddha can keep their bodies and minds pure and untempted by lust, although they are mostly young men?" Pindola replied, "Noble Lord, Buddha has taught us to respect all women. He has taught us to look upon all old women as our mothers, upon those of our own age as our sisters, and upon younger ones as our daughters. Because of this teaching, the disciples of Buddha are able to keep their bodies and minds pure and untempted by lust, although they are youthful. But, honored teacher, one may have impure thoughts of a woman, the age of a mother or a sister or a daughter. How do the disciples of Buddha control their desires?" Noble Lord, the Blessed One taught us to think of our bodies as secreting impurities of all kinds, such as blood, pus, sweat, and oils. By thinking thus, we, although young, are able to keep our minds pure. "Honored teacher," still pressed the king, "it may be easy for you to do this, for you have trained your body and mind and polished your wisdom. But it would be difficult for those who have not yet had such training. They may try to remember the impurities, but their eyes will follow beautiful forms. They may try to see the ugliness, but they will be tempted by the beautiful figures just the same. There must be some other reason that the young men among the Buddha's disciples are able to keep their actions pure." "Noble Lord," replied Pindola, "the Blessed One teaches us to guard the doors of the five senses. When we see beautiful figures and colors with our eyes, when we hear pleasant sounds with our ears, when we smell fragrance with our nose, or when we taste sweet things with our tongue or touch soft things with our hands, we are not to become attached to these attractive things. Neither are we to be repulsed by unattractive things. We are taught to carefully guard the doors of these five senses. It is by this teaching of the Blessed One that even young disciples are able to keep their minds and bodies pure. The teaching of Buddha is truly marvelous. From my own experience, I know that if I confront anything beautiful or pleasing without being on my guard, I am disturbed by the sense impressions. It is of vital importance that we be on guard at the doors of the five senses at all times to keep our deeds pure. Whenever a person expresses the thought of his mind in action, there is always a reaction that follows. If one abuses you, there is a temptation to answer back or to be revenged. One should be on guard against this natural reaction. It is like spitting against the wind. It harms no one but oneself. It is like sweeping dust against the wind. It does not get rid of the dust, but defiles oneself. Misfortune always dogs the steps of one who gives way to the desire for revenge. It is a very good deed to cast away greed, and to cherish a mind of charity. It is still better to keep one's mind intent on respecting the noble path. One should get rid of a selfish mind and replace it with a mind that is earnest to help others. An act to make another happy inspires the other to make still another happy, and so happiness is born from such an act. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Those who seek enlightenment must be careful of their each step. No matter how high one's aspirations might be, it must be attained step by step. The steps of the path to enlightenment must be taken in our everyday life. At the very beginning of the path to enlightenment, there are 20 difficulties for us to overcome in this world. And they are: 1. It is hard for a poor man to be generous. 2. It is hard for a proud man to learn the way of enlightenment. 3. It is hard to seek enlightenment at the cost of self-sacrifice. 4. It is hard to be born while Buddha is in the world. 5. It is hard to hear the teaching of Buddha. 6. It is hard to keep the mind pure against the instincts of the body. 7. It is hard not to desire things that are beautiful and attractive. 8. It is hard for a strong man not to use his strength to satisfy his desires. 9. It is hard not to get angry when one is insulted. 10. It is hard to remain innocent when tempted by sudden circumstances. 11. It is hard to apply oneself to study widely and thoroughly. 12. It is hard not to despise a beginner. 13. It is hard to keep oneself humble. 14. It is hard to find good friends. 15. It is hard to endure the discipline that leads to enlightenment. 16. It is hard not to be disturbed by external conditions and circumstances. 17. It is hard to teach others by knowing their abilities. 18. It is hard to maintain a peaceful mind. 19. It is hard not to argue about right and wrong. 20. It is hard to find and learn a good method. Good men and bad men differ from each other in their natures. Bad men do not recognize a sinful act as sinful. If its sinfulness is brought to their attention, they do not cease doing it, and do not like to have anyone inform them of their sinful acts. Wise men are sensitive to right and wrong. They cease doing anything as soon as they see that it's wrong. They are grateful to anyone who calls their attention to such wrong acts. Thus, good men and bad men differ radically. Bad men never appreciate kindness shown them, but wise men appreciate and are grateful. Wise men try to express their appreciation and gratitude by some return of kindness, not only to their benefactor, but to everyone else.
Thank you, Julia. Wow, that was quite some reading. Probably one of the longest I've had, sorry. So you're entitled to a glass of water.
Or some
Alright.
tea.
Thank you. Awesome. Actually, it's a good idea, Casper. I'd open the session myself. Alright, so and my job is to kind of modernize and unpack that thing a little bit. I'm not going to cover each and every detail, obviously, because that was a long. But it started with purity. So maybe I'd like to begin with a reminder of the deeper meanings of purity in Buddhism. So here, pure is not the opposite of very. It is not a synonym of perfection either. It simply means of one essence, wholesome. Following that logic, when something's nature is pluralistic or dualistic, it cannot be called pure. Therefore, purity in Buddhism is first and foremost something about unity and oneness. Um, if you kill or steal uh, from someone, you negate your physical interconnectedness. If you deceive other or indulge in idle talk, you are needlessly breaking the silence that unites you. If life appears as a competition in your mind, then you also become conflicted and makes it very difficult to live peacefully. So, in other words, whenever we step away from oneness, teaching tell us, it brings us up. Behaving in the right way, right, lightly, good and bad things that we were saying. So behaving in the right way is therefore behaving to bring about cohesion instead of division in all circumstances. In today's lecture, there was a story about that wealthy woman that treated her maid well, as long as she conformed to her expectations. As pointed out, there are indeed a lot of people that behave just like that. In fact, aren't we all a little bit like that? We may be tempted to think, oh no, I'm the type of son patient. But then, what happens when we're stressed out or frustrated? A good example would be, how do we react when someone asks us to repeat the same thing for the third or fourth time in a row? Are we able to remain in a good mood when we're too hot or tired or fed up with everything? So, good behavior is not only about being environmentally conscious, feeding starving children, being a vegetarian, and things like that. It really begins at home with tiny little things. In fact, if we had been more mindful of our interexistence, our interdependence, the destruction of our environment and the starvation of our children would probably have never happened. So if you dream of a better world, this is how you can create. This is how you can practice teaching of the Buddha. To use the spoken word wholesomely is especially challenging. I mean, to refrain from killing is fairly easy. To refrain to being rude, you have many more occasions to call it. Sometimes words seem to fly out of our mouth before we even think them. Fortunately, the teaching shares a technique to help us improve our mindfulness on things that we say. And it was working like in pairs of antonym in the breathing. Here's another one that might be, well, at least that is more useful. So you can ask yourself, is my intervention, one, relevant to the current subject? My own point. Two, is it true and factual, or is it hearsay, opinion? Three, is it pleasant to you? Might not be the entire goal there, but it helps. Four, will it be beneficial to others? And five, is it fueled by good intention? What's important there is that no matter how true and well-intended the information that we have to share, it's sometimes simply not worth the trouble. For example, to tell a drug addict that you are saddened by their habit and that drugs are bad for them is probably not helping much with their problem. But it's true. Yeah, drugs are bad, and probably your intentions are good, but it's not achieving. But if you wait that they come to you wanting to talk about it, then the subject is already there, so that makes it rather. rid of it. Then, because of your openness to it, you become pleasant, and so your words will be heard, and you can truly make a difference, and then you become beneficial. So it doesn't really matter in what order it occurs. It's if you really want to help someone, help them achieve some level of transformation. If you can have those five ingredients, that's very good. If you don't have them, you should probably question whether you should speak or not. Um, I feel that that's especially difficult with our family because we care so much and we're so passionate about their well-being. That we tend to speak to them. So let us wait for the right moment. Let's use the right form. As we would. Right, spider. We get the occasional troll like this.
Well,
And
yeah.
indeed, hallelujah.
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 The gospel of Spider-Man. As opposed to the gossip of Carl, of which I have learned a bit earlier. Right, Carl?
Oh? What? Nani? Something about the waifu?
Oh my. So, yeah, sorry. They concentrated a little bit there. So, speaking to people, especially if they're close, can be difficult because we tend to, I'd say, overlook certain feeling or overlook certain timing. We're much more careful with strangers usually because we're not completely sure how they will react. And with our close ones, we have more like the attitude of, you can't take it. But unfortunately, that often does not work. So it's one part being mindful and one part reading the room. Another thing is that we're often quick to criticize others and to name everything that is wrong in the entire world. Uh, Although it's often indicated to remain silent. When we speak, we should be just as diligent in sharing a good thought. For example, if you see someone and that person looks beautiful, or they sound smart, or you feel that they're very nice, it doesn't cost much to just tell them. It's good actually to point it out to them, like make their day, and they might do it more often just because you noticed. So if maybe you don't know, maybe the person has self-confidence issue. It's a good way to help them bloom. And so that's also a good example, as cited in the book, that happiness never increases by being shared. It doesn't cost much. Okay. To maximize the result of his selfless work, a bodhisattva has to be able to recognize lost causes as well as his work in nurture. So must then act fully. History is full of leaders that use the power of the spoken word to unite. Often prevailed. But if the spoken word is powerful, it also can be used against us or there at the lecture. So we have to be mindful of the words that enter our mind through our ears, and of what we do with them once they have found their way inside. Words of hatred can scare us, undermine our self-confidence, and leave us in a depressed state. Battering words and lies can deceive us, trick us, and make us fall into traps. So since we cannot control the words spoken by others, we should at least carefully select which words we heed, which words we give importance to. So those that we feed will undoubtedly influence our actions in the future. I think a lot of us have memories of things that were said to them in their childhood, and we're still sometimes reflecting on that or remembering it, or it's something painful or something troubling, and it somehow has shaped our identity. So that's a good example of feeding maybe a bad word way too much time. We have to be able to detach ourselves from the things that others think about it. Well, there's this thing on the internet that says that what other people think of you is really none of your business. And I would kind of agree with that. They are entitled to their opinion. It doesn't change the person you are. Otherwise, we would be reacting mindlessly, and that brings consequences. And that's what was compared there to spitting or sweeping dust against the wind. So the satisfaction that it brings is often short-lived and long-term consequences can be serious. So there was this beautiful little part there saying, train your mind to be as broad as the earth, as vast as the sky, as deep as the river or the ocean, as soft as well-tanned leather. I call that Shoshin, the practice of remain unshakable, unshakable heart, unshakable mind. So if you remember also, we've had an early teaching many weeks ago where we're saying when somebody comes and they're in distress or they're confused, you need to make yourself spacious. So you need to make yourself big enough so that you can take your own stuff in and their stuff their stuff as well. And even with your stuff and their stuff, you still have a lot. It's just barely the echo that you hear. So that really is how Buddhism can be practiced. The anthill fable, which is a horrible fable, I really don't like those allegorical history with a bunch of symbolical objects. It is very confusing to me. I always have to read them like 10 or 12 times to completely get them. So although the format is horrible, it is quite meaningful, and it goes hand in hand with oral tradition. Right? That's why they had the things. You would memorize that story once, and if you knew all the symbols, then you can unpack it. It was, I guess, like zipping a file back in those days. You would zip a teaching into one story like that, and you could unpack it to anybody that needed it. So it's an attempt to summarize the essential of Buddhist teaching. In this case, it aims to explain that suffering comes from the ignorant mind and warns against the dangers of the desires awakened through the senses. It also points out that inner peace exists within all of us and that we need only less service to find this, which I guess we spoke about throughout last time briefly. And I think I made the point that love is always there. You just have to not get in its way. But basically, when you're not acting selfishly or creating a conflict, you are surrounded and bathed. So it's just about your ability to recognize that and tap it. So it's kind of the same thing there with inner peace. Well, it is the same. Transcend love. It's funny because I've been a practitioner for a long time, and I've just decided taking Japanese classes recently, and I have just discovered that Soto Zen, which is quite a big school of Zen, and although the word Soto means outside, so it's the outside Zen, which I thought was quite interesting. Uh, there's a saying that says that you don't have to meditate in nature because nature meditates for you. I guess that's what Soto is about. It's also transcending love. We can connect. So sometimes when people lose their mindfulness, they allow emotional storms to form within their heart mind. And then they're distressed and disoriented, and then they may come and try to pick a fight. In those times, it helps to see beyond. If you pay attention to the confusion of the attacker, you might try to calm them down, reassure them instead of confront them violently. Monk Pindola in our story was a good example, as he decided to remain entirely silent until the antagonist realized his own mistake. And this is one way of ending a conflict or de-escalating it. Although I am not sure everybody would be just like King Udayana and give up. Some people will beat you with the sword to see how you react when you're bleeding to death. So sometimes it's good to either walk away or actively de-escalate the conflict, trying to calm down the other person. Depends just how lost they are. There was a passage about how the disciples of the Buddha were taught to manage lust by focusing their mind uh, on aspects, on less desirable aspects of the human life. And I guess that's a bit extreme there to think of buddies as a fountain of pus and blood and everything. But the main idea there is that there's a flip side to every situation. So the same teaching would apply to any other kind of desire. For example, if you like eating rich, well, think of the health complications caused by a body that grows fat, diabetes, heart disease, and so on. If your thing is binge drinking, then you might like to focus on the bill, the money that you spend, the hangover, the damage that you can cause to your liver, the fights that you pick up with your friends, and so on. If it's drugs, then think of the brain cells that you're losing, and so on. So basically, if something really, really attracts you, well, obviously, you don't build a shrine to it and contemplate how desirable that thing is every day if it always entraps you. On the contrary, start reflecting and meditating on the ways that this is maybe not good. Or don't think of it at all. The best way not to give power to something, if you have reached that level of mastery, is just to occupy your mind and your thought with something positive. Some people stop smoking, for example, by getting into a vegetarian diet and eating a stick of celery or a carrot every time they feel a craving. That's kind of good because you're focusing on health instead of focusing on the problem. But it still replaces therapies. To be careful there. And then obviously guarding the senses door. Doors is also a good advice. Tibetans compare desire to a pig that's trying to enter your carefully cultivated garden. If you let it enter, it will lay waste to everything and all of your good work will be. Therefore, they say that as soon as you see its face appearing on the other side of the fence, you should hit it on the head with all of your might, with a stick to knock it out cold. And, I mean, Tibetans might be non-violent and protective of animals, but they certainly mean business when the desire pig is concerned. I guess it goes to show how important it is to be vigilant. If the smallest of desire can turn our inner garden inside out, how are we to ever find less peace? So we must basically train patience every day. Close to the end of the lecture, there were 20 points, 20 difficulties for practitioners. I've decided to just turn them around a little bit, and I've turned them into 20 pieces of advice for you on the path to self-reliance. So one, although you have almost nothing, share it with someone. Two, by the way, if you want to cut me there because something is unclear, let me know. I will refrain from commenting all of these pieces because there are many of them. But if something is really unclear, let me know. We can have it below. So two, although you think you know a lot, you are mistaken. Be humble and become a lifelong learner. Three, your self-identity does not want to die. Let it die anyway. Four, although you feel alone in your quest, it is the right quest. Five, when you hear the teachings of Buddha, do not think about how it applies to others, but think about how it applies to your own needs. Six, it is difficult and painful to sit through one's impulses. Do it anyway. Seven, when you are overtaken by desire, remember that there are two sides to every coin. 8. Do not confuse fear and submission, which we say. 9. When someone insults you, instead of considering your own feelings. Consider theirs and note the confusion that led them to act this way. 10. When surprised, remove yourself from the situation. Take the timing. 11. It is easier to listen to a teacher than to conduct your own study of the teaching. Conduct your own study of the teaching anyway. 12. When confronted by ignorance, remember how blind you once were. 13. To think highly of your progress on the path divides you from your fellow human. This is not the way. 14. Be a friend to everyone you meet. 15. To know yourself is the only way to firmly rooted wisdom. 16. Disturbances will happen. Find your way back. 17. Teach others in ways that they understand. 18. The best refuge is within. Cultivate your inner compass. 19. Do not live black and white. 20. There is no map or enlightened 3 pointers. You need to find your own. I'd like to finish this commentary by quoting the Serenity Prayer written by the American theologian Reynold Niebuhr. May we find the courage to change what must be altered, the serenity to accept what cannot be helped, and the insight to know the one from you. That is a good way of beginning. So, thank you for sitting through all that. Are there any commentaries, suggestions? Or is there somebody that would like their other week today?
I do have one specific question though.
Yep.
About this whole pure of mind and not getting in temptations and stuff like that, especially about the physical part. It's true that for example in Buddhism Tibetan monks are not supposed to have any kind of intimacy or physical relationships going on? Or is that
Depends on the sects. There are some because there's not just one like Tibetan way of doing things. They have 4 major sects and many smaller ones. And I think like 2 of the major sects are allowed to marry and well, actually, it's even part of the path. Actually, there are sexual practices and things like that you do with a consort, but it's like on another level. It's not necessarily like a mundane relationship that you would.
Oh, that's interesting. So it can completely be different depending on which part, I guess.
Right. So the deeper meaning of sex in Buddhism is about the unification of the feminine and the masculine principle. So I would say these are the 2 hemispheres of your brain. So the masculine principle will be the logical side of you, while the feminine principle will be like the emotional side of you. And they believe that you cannot be a complete human being unless you can use both your mind and your heart in everything that you do. And it's not just the Tibetans, it's many traditions around the world that have this idea of unifying the male and female principle. So sex is perceived like this, as an opportunity to just
Me? To meditate?
just a second, guys.
Less a need.
Okay.
Actually, satisfaction.
Hold on.
So what happened is that somebody joined the server streaming on Discord. They had their sound on very loudly, so I had to go and mute it so I couldn't hear myself. So sorry about that. Yeah. So that's how it's lived. So you could basically, as a master, take a consort and have a sexual experience, and it's about an orgasmic experience actually. When you have an orgasm in Tibetan Buddhism or Santiana, uh, basically during the orgasm you forget who you are. The I is not there anymore, so it kind of dissolves the ego. The experience is so intense that it dissolves the ego. So it's a way to kind of show a student that if you get the masculine and the feminine together and they fuse properly, then all ego disappears. So it's really about being one with the universe and everything. It's really not on the level of loving someone passionately and wanting to possess and do things to them. In fact, it's a very tantric sex. Apart from those initiation, is a very very slow process where that involves a lot of contemplation, a lot of looking in the eyes, a lot of touching, and so and it's about well, it's famous for love making that lasts like 24 hours in a row. That's how it should be,
Oh,
just
okay.
according to the tantras. There are also yogas that will allow you to master the ejaculation, and so it's really not like the way we would consume another being in the West, where we're hunting for them and we want to bag our prey as soon as possible, right? It really is a spiritual practice. But now mix the West with this tradition, and you get quite a bunch of nice court cases to fight in the justice system. So if you don't understand what this is about, stay away from it. That would be my advice.
I do wonder now with the modernization of the world and of course the ever changing cultural aspect, and that the West is we're getting, Eastern and Western cultures are getting intertwined, intermixed. I'm sure that and also I've seen Tibetan monks using modern technology and more modern. So they are getting influenced from each other. I wonder how those teaching have affected, or how they, for example, masculinity and femininity, how Buddhism has basically how did they approached, for example, same sexuality, or gay sexuality in that regards, because then you deal
Yeah.
with kind of like two femininity or two masculinities.
Yeah, no, actually, that's never been a problem in Buddhism.
Mm.
I'd say it's a bit like those shamanistic paths. They, Actually, if you can combine both nature, or if you have a strong feminine side and you're a man, you would be perceived as quite talented, I guess. Like you have less to bridge in terms of skillful means and sensitivity. So you wouldn't be too surprised that if you go on a retreat, you will see that there are usually many practitioners that are gay. I think the only reason I'm mentioning that is that it struck me that these people were rejected oftentimes by the Catholic path or other tradition, and still they needed a spirituality, but they couldn't get it appropriately there. So they kind of came towards Buddhism, and I think they feel pretty well in that path. So I don't know if I have anything very intelligent to say about it. It's just absolutely no issue. It's like a non-debate. It's a non-thing in Buddhism. You can be green or blue or tall or small or gay or that, or you may be into cows. Really, we don't care. It just if that's your thing, you feel good about it, and the cow is also
Alien.
happy about it. We're good.
Sadly, a whole bunch of VR chat furries go to Tibetan shelters.
Right.
And
So again, when you hear about sin in Buddhism or about good and bad, these are not like commandments. These are just, as I said, kind of awareness lines. For example, they will say, well, it's better not to kill. if you do, be aware that there will be consequences. It's better not to lie, and if you do choose to lie, there will be consequences. But I guess there's such a thing as a skillful lie also that will save the life of someone, or please someone very much and make them feel better. Or there could be such a thing as a killing that saves 100,000 people as well. So we need to be very careful. There is truly no black and white in Buddhism about anything, even about Buddhism. I don't like it when I find old texts like this and they're saying this one is special also because that comes from Pure Land Buddhism, which is more of a path where people worship a little bit. You know, that's like a mass religion in Asia, and it's not everybody that goes to the deeper sense, and that's why you will find information like only the disciples of the Buddha understand. But that's actually a bunch of crap. If what you understood on your own is the same thing that the Buddha understood on his own, then you are following the teaching of the Buddha, if you will. It's not mutually exclusive at all. And I consider, for example, Christ to be an enlightened being. I don't know much about Muhammad, but why not? Uh, I think many of those figures came to the same conclusion, and that's where you see that all religions connect in a way. We're all human, right? So it's kind of logical that no matter in which direction you look, you will kind of find the same revelation. We cry for the same reason, and we rejoice for the same reasons as well. And these are basically the ingredients of our spirituality.
Yeah, that
Any
answered.
other question?
Can I ask something?
Sure.
I want to ask, I'm actually really interested in the book, but I don't know which book you guys are reading from, so I don't I like the things that were in there, for example, with the passion, or I don't know actually, but I would love to read it as well,
Well, sure.
but I
It would be a
don't know
pleasure.
the
Are you a
book's
member
name.
of the? Are you a member of our Discord channel?
Yeah.
So if you go in Getting Started, if I'm not mistaken, the channel Getting Started, you can download a copy right there. So the name of the book is The Teaching of Buddha. And the reason I use
Okay.
this is because it has reached about 700th edition in Japanese. So I feel it's a very early book and very early scriptures that have been maintained over the years. In English, it's like the 400th edition. So it's been vetted and verified, and it stood the test of time. And actually, it's almost like a complete Shedra. So it's almost like the full training that a monk would get when they're taking the robes. So I felt like it gave a very good overview of what Buddhism was about. So yeah, I'm happy you like it, and feel free to download it. If you struggle, just message me.
Okay. Can I ask something? I'm so sorry. I want to know what is the side like? What does Buddhism say about hell and heaven?
What does Buddhism say about what? I'm sorry.
Sorry, about hell and heaven.
Well, I think you would get a different answer from different teachers. Mine is that it's a state of mind. Actually, there are different realms in Buddhism. It's not limited to just paradise and hell. We have nirvana, there's a kind of hell as well. And then you have what they call the hungry ghost realm, and you have the demigods, and you have the gods realm. And so basically, if you are in a state where you are never satisfied with your life, you never find happiness, you're never happy with anything, you would be in the hungry ghost realm. The hungry ghosts are depicted as having large mouth but very small neck, so and large stomach. So they want to eat all the time, but they cannot process the food that they're intaking, and so they remain hungry all the time. So see how yes, you could think you're going to reincarnate then there, and that's your punishment. But you can also see that if you're always wanting more and more and more, well, you basically have this hungry mentality and this poverty mentality. So that becomes kind of your living realm. If you are in depression and you hate yourself and you hurt yourself and you do all kinds of things to your physical body or your mind, you're pretty much in hell, in the living hell right there, because you're suffering endlessly and you're spinning endlessly in that kind of fire that you have created. That's also a mind state. Well, compared to nirvana, nirvana is just peace. So it's like everything is full, nothing is lacking. You feel good. So you can, even if you're spending most of your time in the hell, maybe sometimes you meet someone or you're watching the trees and the wind and you get those little moments of contemplation where you kind of move straight from hell to nirvana. And then you say, oh no, but that's not enough. I need this. Then you're back into hungry ghost. So basically, we move from one realm to another constantly, like every minute of the day. And with practice, we get to spend more and more time in nirvana, less time in hell. And I guess that's the main proposition of Buddhism. It starts by the Four Noble Truths start by saying life is suffering, but there is freedom. There is a solution to that, and I'm going to teach it to you. That's what the Buddha said. And so basically, he's taking us from hell to nirvana. I could do an entire class on that. I hope that answers a little bit, but it's a big subject. Did that answer your question, Danielle?
Yeah, it did. But I have another question. Not like I want to ask. Like, if we have questions, can we like ask private questions as well, or do we have to ask like in the class or?
No, that's fine. Let's just make an appointment because I'm usually very tight with time. So if you want, we can have a private half an hour.
Okay.
Just whatever it is. Be my pleasure. All right. Maybe one last question, and then we do our Vipassana meditation. No more. All right. Okay. So let's start this. If you woke up a little bit from your previous meditation, it's time to get back in the mood. So assume the same posture. Right. So let us think about the last time our patience ran out. Let us think about the last time that we allowed ourselves to become irritated through that insulted. So it was just take a few minutes and investigate the cause. Try to remember how you were feeling, what brought feelings about, and what was the trigger. Connect with that, impact it had on the other person. Felt that. 5 minutes of reminiscence like this. Also helps to keep 25% breath, just to make sure you're out tired. for us so that we try to be more patient, not be so vigorous. I develop that Buddhism mind space. Welcome the unwell. And, make sure that we send good thoughts and good healing words to those persons that we might develop a sense that we could have done better, a sense of sympathy, like that. Just do a little exchange there. We can send our good intention, exchange it with the suffering. So as you breathe out, send good intention. As you breathe in, bring in the hurt. And then you can visualize that as an exchange of energy between the person that you have hurt for them to still with Unification. That is it for today's session. Before we call it off, I'm just curious about the new guys that came today. How did you guys like your experience? Not too spooked?
Well, I really enjoyed it. I don't give myself time to reflect very often, so this was really precious, and I learned a lot of new things. I'm very glad. Thank you.
And I don't want to self-promote, but I always record the sessions and put them on a channel separately. So there are like, how many videos by now? Like 26 videos? I mean, and some videos are like 2 hours long. So yeah, you have literally days of footage that you can browse back to and forth. If you ever,
Thank you.
if you ever need guided, if you ever need guided meditation, well, yeah, you know, they're filled with guided meditation, and yeah, you know, you can skip in and skip out, stuff like that. Maybe I should add some timestamps because I keep delaying it and it only grows bigger, the list.
Perhaps.
We should build a reel of the best roles that we have received over the last few months.
Ooh, that's actually a good idea, but man, that's gonna take quite a lot of watching to do. Yeah, I'll post it in the Discord, in the recording sessions as well. So no issues in there.
Great.
Okay, well then, I'll just thank you all guys for showing up today. Always fun to see you. And let's all rise for the dedication. And
For the benefit of beings without exception, I dedicate without any reticence whatsoever all the merit accrued through virtuous acts to the incomparable expanse of totality.
thank you. I bow to all of you.
Have a nice lunch.
I'll probably do that about maybe editing certain things, because I have like Filmora, the full version of it, and I used to edit YouTube videos, so maybe I'll do that one of these times. Who knows? Might be fun.
Nice.
Yeah, that could be funny.
Yeah.
All right,
Who
so
knows?
finished a little bit earlier. Little Poe, if you want, we can proceed directly with our meeting.
Hey guys.
Yeah, of course.
everyone.
I'll invite you if you like. I'll take us to
Yeah.
my home world. If you don't mind, I'll
Perfect.
quickly just grab a bottle of water. I've been in headset, so I haven't had a drink.
And
But
I'll
be
go
1
do
minute.
just. I'll go do just the
do have
opposite, and then
avatar
I'll join
name.
you.
We trolled by a spider.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, see you in a moment.
All right.
Oh wow. Just some